It has been an emotional week. I stood on that red dot with my kids by my side after all the pivots, all the late nights, all the meltdowns, mine and theirs, therapy sessions, business launches, self-doubt spirals. One of those full circle moments was happening that you just can't put into words. Last week, I got to share my heart on a TEDx stage at Missouri S&T about my ADHD, flow, why our brains crave momentum, not perfection, and it was everything I dreamed of and more. The energy, the people, the message, every single bit of it reminded me that what we go through isn't wasted. It's preparing us for the impact we're meant to have. We got home super late the night before Halloween, tired, emotional, a van full of snacks and stories. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear about getting your own TEDx.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yo, it's Alyece, say it right, no cap. ADHD CEO, yeah, we run this track. Systems that slap, brains built different. We make sales in our sleep, yeah, the hustle's efficient. This ain't fluff, nah, this is strategy raw for the ADHD. Minds breaking every law. Hit subscribe, don't miss a single show. We're running on dopamine, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. I showed up on that stage with enough nervous energy to power the entire stage lighting system. I'm not kidding. And standing on that red dot felt so surreal. How did the girl who used to get in trouble for talking too much in class end up here with a microphone being encouraged to talk? And there were definitely a lot of moments oh crap, what's my next line? A lot of impulsive hand gestures. But the truth is, I tripped over my own excitement and my own feet multiple times. But my talk was literally about changing the systems. And I got a chance to practice that in real life. Because ADHD brain or not, done is always better than perfect. And showing up with a shaky voice, a racing heart, sweaty palms, it's all still showing up. So I was on that stage reminding myself our brains crave momentum, not perfection. And for me, I wanted to share my experience and my tips, you could say, on securing your talk because I know you have a talk inside you. So you're scrolling through your email and maybe there's an invitation, right? TEDx organization wants speakers, and your first thought is excitement. But then immediately you go to, it's not me. Someone else is more articulate. Someone else has it all figured out. Someone is more successful than me. Someone else can apply for this. And I used to think that too. But here's the pattern that I see with ADHD entrepreneurs. We're idea machines. We execute, we solve problems. But when it comes to visibility or to calming, space and claiming space for you to take up, to putting ourselves out there, we freeze. And it's not about capability. It's about the story we've been told about who gets to speak, who gets to be on stage, about who deserves the microphone. And the cost is your expertise stays in your business. Your message reaches 12 people instead of 12,000 or 12 million. And the world misses what you could teach. And the TEDx world is packed with people who said yes before they felt ready. Today, I want to dive into my experience. So here's the deal. After I posted on social about getting a TED Talk, I had so many people reach out and were like, oh my gosh, how did you do it? How did you get the talk? Who picked you? And the truth, no one. Okay, no one. I applied. So early in 2025, I did a podcast episode with Phenom, who is absolutely incredible. You can go back and find that episode, and I'll link that in the show notes too. In talking with him before the episode, I told him, I was like, man, you've done 2 TEDx's. That's absolutely incredible. And we were just chatting. He was like, yeah, what's holding you back? Because I expressed to him that I was super interested. I just didn't think that I was ready yet. And he challenged me to just apply, go for it. And so the big secret that I guess everyone's been looking for is, how did I get it? I applied. And the reason I held myself back from applying for so long was I didn't feel like I was qualified. And that is honestly a limiting belief I see so often in my community. I see so often in people I work with and people in my programs, but that is not the case than anything else. And you think that TEDx speakers are all these polished people who've already won, but who've already arrived at something. But what I learned when I gave my talk was the selection committee doesn't care about your resume. They care about your perspective, your lived experience, your unique angle. And so when I applied, I had two thoughts. I've built something in the ADHD entrepreneur space, and I have something to say about it. That was the bar. Not perfection, not a published book, not 20 years of expertise or experience. So if you're running a business, if you've sold a problem, okay, you've solved a problem somehow, you've come up with a solution. If you've learned something in the trenches, you are qualified. Your ADHD brain specifically gives you a perspective no one else has. And so I want you to right now pause this episode, download it so you can come back to it, but write down three things you've learned that surprised you. Because I promise you, one of those is a TEDx talk angle. Now, another thing I see, and when having these conversations with people asking, they're like, I'll figure out what to say later. Our ADHD brains have a reputation for leaving things to last minute. We work on dopamine, and honestly, we sometimes deliver our best work that way. But TEDx is a little bit different, okay? The application process forces clarity. You have to articulate your idea in an application, sometimes in a sentence, in a pitch. When I did my application, they wanted a pitch video that was 2 minutes on the dot, and they tell you we stop watching after 2 minutes. So you have to get really, really clear on how to condense your idea very quickly. And that process, it's actually genius for our brains because it creates urgency and structure, but we often over explain to make sure people understand us. And so you have to get really clear on what your talk is about, what your ideas are about in order to condense it to 2 minutes. And so I built my academy specifically because I realized people with ADHD needed frameworks that don't feel super restrictive. And the application process for TEDx is kind of like that. It's a container and it forces you to think before you're on stage. The talk itself became easier because you've already done the hard thinking. And so when you got your ideas down for a TEDx, spend 15 minutes writing your talk idea as if you're pitching it to a friend, not polished, but raw. Because I assume most TEDx's will do this. But once accepted, I was assigned a coach and we worked over the next couple months because your talk is limited in time. You don't get an hour up there to explain. And so a lot of what we did working with my coach, Lisa, who was absolutely incredible, by the way, was really getting my ideas in a structure that were understandable to anyone that watches it without trying to over explain the idea because you're super limited on time. And so, yeah, I had these thoughts like, what if they say no? And if I'm being fully transparent, I applied for three and I only got accepted for one. And that's tricky because it's, rational. They may say no on some applications. The acceptance rate definitely isn't 100%, but what doesn't make sense is using the possibility of no as a reason to not apply. And so that's fear really dressed up as logic. And so when I was building like my unmasked community in Telegram, okay, and I'll put the link to the show notes for those of you who aren't in that community, I had to get really uncomfortable with putting myself out there. I had to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. I had to get comfortable with rejection, with judgment, with people saying that's not for me. And it really is freeing when you can get to that point because the people who did say yes, they find exactly what they need. And so TEDx saying no doesn't mean your idea isn't good. It means it wasn't the right fit for that event. Some of these events have certain themes and things like that, but that year, that committee, apply to another one. Research 3 TEDx events that you want to go to in your area or outline. 3 specific ideas you have and find a TEDx that fits them. Because if you believe you have to be famous to deserve a platform, that myth is what keeps people with real things to say in silence. And you don't need a podcast with 100,000 listeners. You don't need an Instagram following. You need an idea worth sharing. And TEDx specifically selects those fresh voices for people who aren't already on every major platform. They want the person who's been quietly doing good work, not the influencer recycling trends. And so your business doesn't have to be at some certain point necessarily to get chosen. I was telling myself, I'm not successful enough. Define successful. By what measure? That BS is wrapped up in comparison and it holds you back because I know entrepreneurs running sustainable, profitable, purpose driven businesses who think they're not successful enough to speak publicly. Meanwhile, they're out earning the average employee, doing work that they love, and building on their own terms. And so that's the story we're telling the sustainable hustle, so to speak. The impact over income. Speakers are born, not made. Wrong. Speakers are terrified people who decide to speak anyway. I was not a natural public speaker. Actually, back in corporate, in my working days, I was the person who was creating the presentations, but I wasn't the person allowed to give them. Now, do I think that was right? No, because I do think I was a decent speaker even then. But going through this process of TEDx, I thought way too much before I talked. I rewrote my notes obsessively. But when I got on that stage, something really shifted because I knew my material and because I was speaking from a place of passion, not performance. And so I do remember the day that I submitted my application for Missouri S&T, and I talked about, again, not doing it for months until my friend I did an interview with was like, "Yo, do it today." Ideas floating around in my head, but I kept waiting for permission for this like perfect moment for someone to tell me I was ready. And it wasn't until I realized no one was coming to give me permission. Now, Phenom kind of did that in a way of pushing me, but I hit submit on that application at 11:47 PM on the deadline, okay, with a talk idea I was still nervous about, with an application that wasn't perfect, with imposter syndrome screaming in my head, and I got selected. Not because I was the most polished, not because I had the best credentials, because I sent it in. So, in case you've never listened to any of my episodes, I like to be very tactical. So, I'm gonna give you 5 strategies to go from "I want to "I did it." If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, I would do it right now because I'm about to drop some serious gold nuggets on you, and you're not going to want to miss these. Strategy 1, separate the application from the performance. Okay, your brain is probably mashing these ideas together. The application has to be perfect, so the talk will be perfect, so the outcome will be guaranteed. That's not how it works. The application is simply the door, nothing more. Okay, it's a description of your idea, not the idea itself, not the whole talk. And this is really why inside Focused and Free, my membership, we do daily trainings, mini trainings, and they're not really like tactical always. A lot of times they're motivational or inspirational or just get your ass out there and do it. But we break big projects into stages so you don't overwhelm yourself. The application stage is separate from the research stage, it's separate from the writing stage, it's separate from the practice stage. So, right now, only focus on the application. Go to the TEDx website, pick one event, download the application, or find the Google form for it, read it, and apply. It's that simple. Strategy number 2, use your ADHD hyperfocus strategically. So here's what neurological advice gets wrong. All right. This is so common. Honestly, it's so common. But getting into flow and moving fast is what our brains do best. And so thinking we're not built for incremental or we're not built for intensity, we're only built for intensity, use that. Pick a 3-hour block. Block your calendar, close everything, write your entire application in that session. Let your brain do what it does best, getting into flow and moving fast. You don't have to edit it today. You just have to get it out. Write it down, commit to it like it's a client meeting. Strategy number 3, find your unique angle. Okay, not someone else's story. So TEDx is packed with talks about productivity, motivation, success. They don't need another one, but they do need your angle, your perspective, your business story, your community breakthroughs. We help you inside my spaces excavate what's already different about your approach, what you've accidentally discovered, the other people are still struggling with. That's your talk. Write down 3 things people always ask you about. They're probably your talk angles. Strategy 4, accept the good enough submission. So perfectionism it kills everything. And I know because I almost didn't submit mine for another year. I was writing and rewriting and editing and trying to make it perfect to impress them. But the committee doesn't see the perfected version. They see the version you send. If you spend another month perfecting it, you might miss the deadline, or you might decide it's not good enough and never send it. Send the 80% version that's ready right now. And then strategy number 5, remember that rejection isn't personal. Okay, this one matters because it's going to happen eventually and you need to be ready for it. You might apply to a TEDx and not get selected. That's not about your idea. It's about timing, about committee performance, about specific lineups they're building. That's why the unmasked community exists, partially because I needed a space where people understood and felt understood that not every opportunity is the right fit. If you get rejected, it's not the end of the world. Immediately apply for another one. Don't let it stop your momentum. I want you to remember that every TEDx speaker you've ever seen was also someone sitting where you're sitting right now, wondering if they're good enough, trying to put together the perfect application, but they applied anyway. So you don't need permission to speak. You don't need permission to take up space or to be more qualified or more polished or more certain. You need to apply. The worst thing that happens is they say no. and you apply to another one, eventually they say yes. And your message will reach people who desperately need to hear it. There's someone in your audience right now who needs your perspective on your solution, on building what you help them build, on doing things differently. That person's waiting for you to show up. So here's my permission in case you needed it from someone. Apply, apply. I absolutely cannot wait for my talk to go live. It probably will be 2 months from now. Make sure you're on my email list so you can get all the information about that. If you're not already on the wait list for Flow First Thinking, my book that's going to be coming out is built around what I talked about in my talk. I cannot wait to release this book. Make sure you check the show notes for the link to jump on that wait list. And until next time, as always, if you got any value out of this episode at all, please leave us a review. It's the absolute best compliment you can give. Take a screenshot of you listening to this thing, throw it in your stories, tag me at socially.awesome on IG. I want to share you, I want to celebrate you for plugging into your business. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome.